forms. You are your own grandpa in that sense. You are your own creator. You are both the creator and the created. Everything of you that is in karma is created. Everything, your body, your personality, your thoughts, who you think you are, what you think you're doing, how many more incarnations, what you did last incarnation, all that stuff, that's all lawful stuff unfolding. And behind it all, you are free. Emmanuel says, he says, look, you have your choice. Do you want to continue to be the victim, or do you want to be the creator? As the creator, you enjoy your creation, which in this case is Ram Dass. This is my creation. And what I'm seeing you all to be is the creation of my mind. You and I are seeing different things. We're seeing our own creations because I can show you, even as a psychologist, I mean, I can show you that. I can show you if I take a group of people that are hungry and I run them through a town. At the end of the town, I say, what did you see? And they say, I saw Dunkin' Donuts and the pizza parlor. And I take somebody who's got a rattle in their car, in the engine, and they're worried about it. And on the other side of town, I say, what did you see? And they say, I saw garages and service stations. And you take somebody that's horny and you run them through the town at the end. You can predict they saw that person standing on the corner under the clock and that person over there. They didn't see pizza parlors. Desire manifests in perception. It's perceptual selectivity. You actually pick out of the infinite stimulation that is occurring to your senses all the time, in every sense dimension, that which fits into your model of how you think it ought to be. And those models come along with attachments, or desires are at the root of them, and your identification. I am hungry, and therefore the universe turns into what is edible and what is not edible. And how do I get it? And that's called first chakra. And second chakra is horny, and everybody either breaks down into makeable, a competitor, or irrelevant. And the third chakra is power, and it's who's got more of it, me or you? Who controls more? That's what politics are about, what heavy duty. We got a lot of third chakra folk around these days. Fourth chakra is the first one that starts the compassion. That's the first one in which you start to tune to a place in yourself where you recognize that other people are your brothers and sisters and fellow souls. And then it goes on up the scale. Where is the root of suffering in all this? It is just so obvious. Like somebody comes up, I go out to my car last week, I'm up in Marin, and I go swimming in Marin, and I come back to my car, and in the back, behind the seats of my car, I have a little MG, and behind the back seats is my duffel bag with all my clothes in it and all of my toilet articles. And I walk back and I look at the car, and we look at the car, and there the car is, but the duffel bag isn't. Somebody has broken into the car and taken the duffel bag. Now, how long does it take me? My God, my clothes are gone. I got a lecture tomorrow night. To, wow, I can buy a whole new wardrobe. To, in other words, how long am I busy being somebody who had that duffel bag? Because I don't have it anymore. See, as long as I'm being somebody, like I had a car in New York at one point, and I came out one day and the tape deck was gone. And I had a moment of, oh, damn it. And then, oh, that poor slob that stole the tape deck. Think of the paranoid world that person lives in. Well, now I don't have a tape deck. Then the next week I got another tape deck, and 2 weeks later it was parked in the same spot, and I came back and the same guy took the same, the next tape deck. And at that moment I became somebody who doesn't have a tape deck. I mean, I was no longer somebody who has a tape deck that could be stolen. I just gave up that reality. That wasn't a functional reality if you live on 100th Street in New York City. Now, it's interesting because therein lies the secret of whether the 80s are frightening to you or not, of how quickly you can let go when things change. And that depends on how tenaciously you hold on to your models of how you think it ought to be. Like you can see, like you see a relationship. I'll give you a good example. I do marriages now and then. Not very often, but now and then. And one of the things I say to people that are getting married is the important thing is truth in relationships. And it's very scary. Truth is not an easy game, because you've got to be really out front. But that's the only way you keep the living spirit in a relationship. The minute you're kind, watch it. You can't afford too much kindness in a relationship. It's lovely, but it's kind of repetitive. So this couple said, "Oh yes, we want truth." I said, "You sure?" "Oh yes, yes." So I said to him, "All right, if there's anything you can't tell her right now." And he said, "Well, right after you and I decided we wouldn't see anybody else, I was over at Sally's house and we had sex. Oral sex." "You what?" She was the essence of the woman betrayed. I mean, if I were casting for that part, I couldn't have picked a better person than her. And she started in with that betrayal, and I lay down on the floor and I sort of just enjoyed the show. I mean, it was incredibly rich for about 10 minutes. Then I looked at my watch and I said, "Well, it's 10 minutes. You've got 3 choices," I said to her. "You can get rid of this rat," which I think is a very intelligent thing to do. I mean, he made a promise and he broke it, and who would want to hang out with somebody like that? So just get rid of him. I'll back you. It's okay. You can get rid of him. I mean, you don't want to live with somebody that's a liar and a cheat. My God, that's terrible. I mean, you're absolutely right. You can be right. That's one choice. Well, the second choice is you can say, "Well, I'll try to forget it." That's a great one. You can milk that for at least 20 years. I mean, I think you'd put out the garbage. "I'm trying to forget about Sally." It's that one. Or you can just say, "Well, I guess that model of what we were doing together is just another model, and let go, and here we are, and you either are with the person or you're not." It is very scary to have a relationship in truth, because you can't play. The only contract is the living spirit of love. That's the only contract that becomes valid in the game. Everything else becomes something that keeps calcifying, and you can settle for it, but if you're awakening and you're trying to use everything in your life to awaken, relationship, which is one of the hottest contras going, but also one of the riskiest, becomes a tremendous vehicle for awakening into the spirit, but it requires truth, and it requires incredible willingness to let go of your models again and again of who you think you are and who you think another person is. Because you and I are so many levels of reality, and we're going in and out of it. I mean, you're not the same person all day long. And what does it mean when 2 people come together, both of whom are like magic theaters, changing all the time? How can you count on anything? I mean, most people think they are consistent, but there's that great story, Gandhi was leading a march of the Indians, a protest against the English, and he started the march and everybody was going along, and they had left their jobs and their work and their families, and it's great hardship in India to leave your job to make a protest march. And suddenly Suddenly he saw apparently there's going to be violence, and he stopped the march. And his lieutenant said, Mahatmaji, you can't do that. And he said, I am a human, and I only know from where I'm standing relative truth. God is absolute truth. And you know, he said, my truth changes from day to day. And my commitment is to truth, not to consistency. Now let me show you what I'm talking about, and I'll give it to you in a really down-home way. I'm visiting with a woman, because I hang out with dying people, because it gets me really high. And, I really think there's probably something weird about me. When I know I'm going to be with somebody dying, I get into ecstasy. Isn't that far out? It's like being with my guru. It's because it demands, you really can't. Like I visit death row and prisons and stuff. You can't really be a phony in those situations. You just got to be right there. So I'm with this dying woman, and she says to me, Ram Dass, I want to die, and I want you to help me die. I'm ready to die. And I said, well, that's arrogant, Jean. How do you know you're supposed to die? I mean, maybe you're supposed to lose each of your senses first. Don't rush. Take everything you can get. She said, but Ram Dass, I'm so bored. I said, well, Jean, that's because you're busy dying all day. I mean, couldn't you die 5 minutes an hour? Do you have to die every hour, all hour? I'm dying. Oh, God, I'm dying. Are you dying? Oh, Jesus, I'm dying. I'm trying to die consciously. I'm dying. It'd be boring. I'd be bored being anything, You're a truck driver. You're home in bed. What do you do? I'm a truck driver. Well, are you a truck driver in bed? Yeah, yes, I'm a truck driver in bed. It's like Allen Ginsberg said to me, he said, I'm a poet. I said, no, you're a being a poet. No, I'm a poet. He said, you're always a poet? Yes, I'm always a poet. He used to say that. I don't know what he says now. Buddhist, not now. But you begin to see that a relationship, unless it gets so that everybody has their little routines. Good morning, dear. Good morning, dear. Yes, I'll have toast today. Thank you. Thank you for the paper. And everybody gets things most smoothly. I always know when a relationship says, oh, we're getting along wonderfully. Everything's so smooth. There's no problems at all. Watch it. Watch it. Because living truth is a very fine line between cosmos and chaos. It's like walking that line right down the way. Because the minute you embrace a dishonesty in order not to shake the other person's model of what reality is, you have just entered into the conspiracy to keep you both asleep. When you want to get free bad enough, you start to use, as I said, everything in your daily life you use it all as I titled that book, Grist for the Mill. It all becomes the stuff through which you awaken. And at that point, you take what's given in your life and you work with it. But where you experience that you have choice, you choose those kinds of things which will help you awaken. So that at that point, were you to enter into a relationship intentionally, you would say, we come together because we're turned on, because of economics, because of our personalities are congenial and all that. But basically, it's because we want to become free, and we can become free through one another. And through the vehicle of this relationship. That is the exciting one. That was what the marriage contract till death do us part was all about. Because then when it hits the fan, you don't run away, because that's just more of the stuff to work with. Each individual here has a unique karmic predicament. Each individual here has a unique route through. You must cultivate listening, listening, and the way Milarepa is listening, listening to the universe, listening to your innermost being. If you are quiet enough and listen deeply enough, you will be back outside of time and space, and you will see exquisitely clearly what is the next move you made. You have that? What is the next move you made? Because you are outside of time and you see law unfolding. And you live your life as an unfolding play, all the time remaining quiet, centered, listening, tuning. Tuning to the Tao, to the flow, to the way of things. And from moment to moment, your truth is what you go after, not your consistency, and it's sometimes scary because you have to blow your whole scene apart, and sometimes you can go through the whole dance without losing a step and do it so that all the changes happen inside of you and nobody on the outside even notices it. It's what I call a Martian takeover. I mean, it used to be that when people would awaken, they had to put flowers in them here and wear certain clothes and grow beards and long hair and say, look, I've seen. I've got a badge that says I saw. I'm a member of this group. But if you look at this gathering of beings, you will see this is as heterogeneous as society itself. Who are we? What is common that when I say these things, you're sitting here. You didn't get up and walk out. Maybe you feel trapped, but for most of you, you and I are hearing each other. We're just talking to ourselves again. We are the one being the many. We are the one in drag. And we are recognizing our predicament. And yet we're going along being doctors and lawyers and professors and hippies and everything else and junkies and on food stamps and ecologically concerned and ecologically not concerned and on and on and on. We all have our parts to play in the drama. More and more now, I can walk through life and find that as I meet people in different walks of life, if I am right here, like the other day I was caught for speeding in Arizona. I was pinched by a state trooper from an American Indian state trooper. So I got into his car and he was writing the ticket and I was the culprit and he was the state trooper. And I said to him, what tribe do you belong to? And he mentioned the tribe and I said, oh, you know David Manali? Oh, yes, he's one. I know, sure, of course. I said, well, and it turned out we had a lot of friends. And slowly, 45 minutes later, he and I were sitting in the cruiser in love. He gave me the ticket. I didn't do it to get out of the ticket. The ticket is part of the dance that we had together. The ticket was the vehicle for us to meet in this incarnation. How else would we have met? The impeccable warrior in life sees every event as to the extent you see it as an event, it means that there is an attachment of mind in you, and so it is a challenge for you to use that event to awaken out of your own attachment of mind. That is what you're doing with the experiences of life. They are, every one of them, perfectly designed by you as a vehicle for your own awakening. Far out. Everything that happens to you all the time. Got cancer? I so. Lost the duffel bag? I so. Now, I know I'm pushing because it's a long time that I've been talking. And what I'm going to do in a very few minutes is I'm going to take a break and we're going to stretch for a little while, and then we have the hall till 11. So then those of you that think you need more, all the halt, lame, and blind, can stay and we will do questions and answers. Because the thing is that there's nothing that I can tell you that you don't know. That's the bizarre predicament I find myself in. Because when I say something, you go, yeah, that's right. How do you know if you didn't know? So really, all you have to do is go sit on your toilet or wherever you sit, and wherever you sit most comfortably, and you will know what I know. I don't know anything special that you don't know. You're just busy not knowing it. And I'm busy knowing it. It's a little game we play. We'll go to Ram Dass. He knows. Okay, I'll know. I know. You don't. It's just a conspiracy to play a game out. It has nothing to do with the wisdom that is inherent in each of us.
What a great excuse to meet you.
Now, in coming back into life, in the circle, in the completing of the circle of the two going into the one, and when you have faith and you've tasted that we are one awareness, then that affects how you live as two, how you play the dance. Because, for example, if I have looked at you in a state of consciousness in which I see that not only are you my sister or my brother, but you are actually myself, how can I later treat you as if you are her or him? How can I not treat you as us? What happens to the them of the world? Like, I raise money for an organization called the Seva Foundation. The Seva Foundation is an organization started by a group of people who were instrumental in eradicating smallpox from the world. And then they looked for another project, and they decided to take on unnecessary world blindness. Turns out that 80% of the blind in the world are unnecessarily blind because of cataracts that they need operations, or in third world countries because of disease that can be cured with vitamins or can be cured with drops in the eyes when the illness starts. 80% of the world's blind, and in a third world country, when you lose your sight, you're up the creek, I'll tell you. At this moment, there are 7 million people in India waiting for cataract operation, and Dr. Venkataswamy, who's on the board of Seva with me, who's a winner of the Padma Award, which is like the Nobel Prize in India, he's got hands as arthritic as this, and he performs eye surgery every day. And he runs these mobile eye hospitals which move to the villages and perform eye operations so that the grandchild leads the grandparent to the hospital. The operation takes 4 minutes and it costs $5. Now, there are some people that will wait for 30 more years and they will die and they will never have gotten rid of the cataracts because there is no $5 and there is no 4 minutes. Okay, now just knowing that, that's just a fact about this plane of reality. Knowing that, what do I do with my next $5? See? Well, this is an interesting question. If that one of them was my father, I know what I do. You know what I do. If one of them was my uncle or my aunt, or if one of them was you, if one of you walked up and you were blind and you were led up and you said, say, I don't want to spend the rest of my life this way and I could get rid of it if I had a cataract operation that would cost $5, could you help me? If there were a $5 bill anywhere in me or around me, that person would have it. So you do the same thing. But what about those 7 million people over there? Are they them or are they us? It's an interesting world we live in. In order to protect that us-themness and the life we lead, which keeps us being us by keeping some them, we turn off our divinity. We turn off the knowing that we are all one in order to preserve our separateness. It's like my father, that great story. My father, I put out an album of records some years ago. A group of us did it, called Love, Serve, Remember, which had readings from the Gospel of John and all kinds of neat things, music. And when we put out the tape, the records, it was in a beautiful album with beautiful booklet with pictures, and the whole thing was mail order item for $4.50. My father looked at it. He's a very wealthy Boston, very good man. He's a great guy, conservative Republican capitalist, president of a railroad at that time, and he looks at this and he says, "Great job here. Geez, you know, $4.50, you could sell this in a store for $10, $15. I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "Would fewer people buy it?" I said, "No, same number." He said, "Well, I don't understand you. If you can sell it for 10 and you're selling it for 4.5, what's the wrong? Are you against capitalism or something?" And I tried to figure out how to explain. I said, "Dad, did you just try a law case for Uncle Henry?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "And it was a damn tough case, and I spent a lot of time in the law library." Now, my father is a very successful attorney, and he has charged fees that are commensurate with his reputation. So I said, "Well, I bet you charged him a nominal egg for that one." "What, are you out of your mind? That's Uncle Henry. I couldn't charge him." I said, "Well, that's my problem. If you can find me anybody that isn't Uncle Henry, I'll rip them off." What I'm saying to you by those stories is that as you start to acknowledge your own inheritance, your own higher awareness, it starts to temper the way you live in your normal waking consciousness, so to speak, by changing all of the kinds of values and ways in which you possess things or lose them or possess models of how reality is or allow them to change. All of this changes. It just logically, intuitively follows from acknowledging these other planes of consciousness. And you will begin to notice the way, the habits of thought you have that are keeping you imprisoned. And you begin to see that it's not worth holding on to those habits. Or what is important for us to really realize is we disidentify with the habits and the desires. We don't stop the habits from ongoing or the desires from happening. You are incarnated in a species that reproduces through sexual desire. Any game you play to deny that desire, to make that desire stop, is a game which is denying your existential moment, your incarnation, the way God is manifesting in this particular form. The game is not to deny the desire, but to extricate yourself from identification with the desire. The desire is there. The humanity is here. Hunger is here. Fear is here. Loneliness is here. Jealousy is here. Rage is here. Self-pity is here. And I am here. And it is not that I am not all of these things, but I am not exclusively these things. And it is that flipping back and forth of consciousness that starts to bring about the process of deeper and deeper liberation. Just slowly extricating yourself from your identification with your desires and with the habitual patterns of thought you have. And everything in your daily life, when you really decide that you want to be free, is stuff you can use. There is no time in this game of liberation. It isn't measured in time. It is the minute you let go and recognize. This is the main book I have been studying now for 6 years, since 1974, 7 years. I was visiting with a man named Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who's a rascal up in Colorado, a tantric Tibetan Lama. And one day he said offhandedly, I was having an interview with him, and he said to me, "Ram Dass, you might enjoy the Sin Sin Ming, the writings of the third Chinese patriarch." And I walked out and I walked downstairs. There was a big seminar, a couple of hundred people, and this Tibetan nun walked up to me from Canada. And she said to me, "Oh, Ram Dass, it's so good to see you. You know, there's been something I wanted to give you." And she brought out the third Chinese patriarch's writings, the Sin Sin Ming, and handed it to me. This is it. This is the whole writings right here. Okay? Which you would think is precious little to spend 7 years on. But I'll show you, because you take the first line. This first line should keep you for about a year. The first line is, "The great way," meaning liberation, "the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." You ready? Do you think you're ready to go on to the second line? I don't think so. I mean, I can still work with that one. The awesome thing is that who you and I really are is only known. The truth waits for eyes that are unclouded by clinging. And the truth is that who we are stands nowhere, has no definition, is neither coming nor going, was neither born nor dies, is neither getting enlightened or not getting enlightened. Who we are is. And within that isness are all these forms of the dance. There is nowhere to stand. If you are frightened because there's nowhere to stand, that is because you think you need the place that you are standing on. And if you think you need the place, if you have invested in anything, and demanding that it not change, when you know full well that all things change. So when you have invested in a thing based on the idea that it won't change, whether it's your income or your health or your body or the love of friends or your life or whatever, it will change. And if you are holding on to non-change in a changing environment, you are going to be freaked out of your skull. You may cover it 1,000 ways, but you are constantly frightened and running scared. There's no way not to be. In a universe in which all form is changing, the minute you try to hold anything back, it's like trying to hold back the waters of a raging river. You finally open to the flow, and from moment to moment it's yes, so. It's the monk who's in the monastery, and the people in the village, the girl gets pregnant in the village and she doesn't want to say it's the fisherman, so she says it was the monk. So the baby comes and they take a torchlight thing and they go up and they knock on the monastery and they say to the monk, "This is your baby, you raise it." And the monk says, so. Takes the baby, closes the gate. 9 years later, the girl is dying. She doesn't want to die without confessing. She tells it was the fisherman. They feel terrible. They all go up and knock on the monastery. The monk comes with a little boy in his hand, holding hands. They say, "We have come to tell you we're terribly sorry. It wasn't your son. We will take over the rearing of this boy." And he says, so. Hold on tightly, let go lightly. So. Some of you were mothers? So. Then your children grew up? So. No, I'm still a mother. See? Let go lightly. Some of you were vital. And then you start to get decaying. No, I'm vital. I'm vital, I'm telling you. I was 50 a month ago. Imagine that, 50 years old. I kept trying to milk it to see what it felt like. I'm 50. God, I'm 50. Holy mackerel, I'm 50. Well, 50. Jeez. Here we go. A long way down. 50. It's all over now. Best is past. And I couldn't get any juice out of it. That's like saying my MG is a 74. It's exactly the same thing. Well, it's a 74. Yep. It's a 74. It's running pretty well considering it's a 74. You know? I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same one. You can buy in or not, you know. No, I'm 50. Okay, if you want to be 50, you be 50. See, the compassion is learning to leave people alone. Big one. If you want to be 50, you be 50. I'm not going to tell you you're not really 50. You've got to come here and ask me to tell you that before I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to walk down the street of Yorktown saying, hey, you're not 50. It's like I'm driving my old Buick. This is a lovely old story. And a state trooper stops me for going so slow. I seem to have a lot of karma with police. Not like some of my friends, but... the state trooper stops me, and he comes over, and I'm going too slow because I'm driving an antique car, and he